it dawned on me, and I hadn't remembered this, but there was a point in my life where I kept trying to get my identity through the love of men. And there was a point where I got to that place where no relationship ever worked. No matter how loving, kind, no matter what I did backflips, and it never worked. And so I started entertaining the thought life that, you know what, I can't make it work with men, so maybe I need to go to a woman to get my needs met. I actually did start thinking that thought at one point in my life. So do you see how thought life works? When you can't get your needs met this way, you're going to go then turn this way, even though I wasn't, if you go back into my childhood, that thought life wasn't there. Okay, but you see, hurt happens. And I try to let all my clients know that you have to pay taxes and you will get hurt. So I'm just here to tell you, you have to use your emotional mechanics where everything is always going to be about a thought. And then you got to trace that thought, because thoughts trigger emotions. Emotions propel behavior. And so you always have to go back to the thought. So any issue I work with, I'm just always going to trace the thought life. And I will always find out why. Okay, the answer will always be there. I've never seen the answer not there. It's always there. You know, but you do have to go do this soul work. So, and keep in mind, so not only do you have to keep in mind emotional mechanics, where, again, thought life triggers emotion, and then that propels behavior. But you have to keep in mind that we are spirit beings, and that you have, that spirit then is in the body, and it is the breath of life that activates the brain. Okay, because if the spirit goes out, your body will die instantly. And it will turn into a shell pretty darn fast. Okay, you know, I've seen this before, and I was it before. But when the brain is being activated, then that consciousness, that psyche, you know, what the scriptures call the soul. But that conscious, that subconscious, I mean, there's consciously aware part of your soul, and then most of it, though, 95%, according to research, shows that most things are in the subconscious. And then they're just going to get repeated and repeated, because it's like a hard drive. The subconscious is like a hard drive, and it's just going to print out the same thing over and over unless you go in and edit it. So during that period of time where I thought, well, gee, forget trying to have relationships with men. It's too hard. I always get hurt. I suck at it. Yeah, I really started thinking this, that I can't do it. I'm just not capable. And so but I still want to be loved, so then I'm going to go towards a woman for that love. And I experimented with that a little bit, not much, but again, it shows me that your thought life can veer so far over that you're ending up behaving in ways that you wouldn't have otherwise. Again, this is the power of thought life and that quantum physics. That whatever you think, you will create it. You will attract it, you will create it. And so we have to start being more responsible for what we create. Now, that's hard for me, because I created a mess, and then they have to go, I created that mess? Yeah, it's kind of hard for me. But knowing when Jesus was talking to the Samaritan woman at the well, and she had been married 5 times, and then she was living with the man that she was with, and Jesus, I don't have it with me because I didn't intend to say this, but I'm just going to throw this out there anyway. When she was telling the other people, come see this man that told me all about my life, okay? But if you go look it up in Greek, the words really mean Jesus taught her that she authored her life, is really what the Greek means, of how she authored her life. And it's quantum physics, where, okay, Deanna has to admit, all right, I authored my life. See, I used to think, no, he did that, and she did this, and it was everybody else. I was always pointing a finger at everybody else. That I'm right, and everybody else is wrong. And really, I walked a life like that, where my parents are wrong, I'm right. So do you see how if I go into a church, I'm going to go, that pastor's wrong, I'm right. So, but it becomes a problem when I'm walking around as a defense system, with the defense system of I'm right and you're wrong, instead of dialectical thinking, which makes me come to the scripture in Mark chapter 12, verse 30, which says, we're to love the Lord with our whole, with your heart, with your soul, with your mind, and with your strength. Now, so I didn't ever really notice this before, but I did this week, which is there's a difference between the soul and the mind. See, because I was thinking the soul is the mind. Okay, but when you go look it up in Greek, there's probably better language for it. So soul really does mean, the breath of life that activates the thought life and the will and the emotions. But mind in Greek means dialectical critical thinking. And in the Greek word, it really means to be able to think from side to side. Okay, so now here's my life where there was a lot of things in my family behavior that I did not like. Be it, porn on the TV, be it molestation, be it drugs. I mean, there was just a lot I didn't like. But what happened is, because I became so discerning at what's going wrong here, I only saw my side of the story. Okay? I only saw one side of the story. And that's a problem, because if we're going to love the Lord with all our mind, meaning love the Lord with the whole way that you critical think. So if we think from side to side, meaning I'll take into account all stories, all angles, all perceptions, everybody's story. Okay, I did not do that. I totally walked life. My perception is the perception. If we're going to love the Lord the way that He's asking us to love Him, it has to mean that we're going to walk a journey where we see everybody's side of the story. Not just your side of the story. We see, it's called dialectical critical thinking. Full-orbed critical thinking. Okay. Keep in mind that if you're loving with your heart, which is your intention, you always have to consider your intents. And then you're loving with the soul, meaning every part of the soul. We're not just talking some parts of the soul. Because with regards to same-gender attraction, I've never met a client that, I'm 100% want to go in the direction of same-gender. Never. Okay? It's always, I always ask, what's the percentage of you that is propelled to go in a direction of same-gender attraction? And it'll be, 60, 70, 80, 40, 30. I mean, I've heard a lot of different things, but I have never heard 100. So, according to what remember, souls dissociate. Because the soul dissociates, that's why there's only going to be a percentage that dissociates, and you can dissociate a bunch of times, okay? But again, it's just a percentage. So remember, it's not the whole of the soul. But what does God want you to? He wants you to love Him with the whole of the soul, not just part of the soul. Okay, so this is what we have to really make people aware that we're in an era where we understand Greek and Hebrew a heck of a lot better than we did before, because we have Bible Hub. Okay, you can easily look all the scriptures up on the internet. Now, it takes some time, okay, but it can be done. And so when you really then understand the exact Greek and Hebrew of it, we have some improvement to do. Because again, if we're going to love the Lord with all our soul, that means you need to get all your dissociated parts integrated. And that's what I do. That's the work that I do. I find out what got dissociated, and let's bring it back into integration. But you do that not by somebody else telling you how wonderful you are, how beautiful you are, how loving you are, how you matter. It's not by the arm of flesh. It's about, no, if your soul got dissociated, you have to bring it back into integration. You. It means you have to sit in its Garden of Gethsemane and have compassion for what it went through, meaning what you went through as a child. But do you know that most people don't have compassion for what they went through as a child? Do you know how many people I work with, I don't want to talk about that, Deanna. Okay, how come? Well, that's painful. Okay, that means your soul is sitting with a lot of pain and it needs somebody to be a witness. Because what did the Garden of Gethsemane teach us? That Jesus needed a witness. So if Jesus needed a witness, we the sure heck do. Because we do not want to ascend above Jesus Christ. We want to follow his example. He showed us, no, you need someone to witness your pain. To say, I see what you're going through. I see the hard time. Sometimes the soul heals just by going, I am so sorry, sweetie, that you went through that. And I'm telling you, souls can just start healing in my office if I just start engaging in that language of, I'm so sorry, sweetie. So I do that to myself. I'm so sorry, sweetie, for what you went through. See, I've taught in my classes, talk to your soul. It needs to hear from you more than it needs to hear from anybody else but maybe God. But it really needs to hear from you. But there is a problem in our society of suppressing emotion, and so therefore the soul doesn't get the witnessing that it needs, and therefore then that it stays imprinted in the subconscious, and the subconscious then doesn't get to be edited. And then things will just get recreated. Okay, so we all have to understand how the soul works, the mechanics of the soul. And that you are really the only one. I mean, God's great and all, but you, the soul, has to want to integrate back into you. We need the soul to desire to come back into alignment with you. But a lot of times if we say, soul, do you trust, so-and-so? The soul will immediately say, no. And every client will go, it just said no, Deanna. Yeah. Now, ask the soul, how come it doesn't trust you? And then that soul will start talking. Now, it's telepathic, but the soul, and that's how the Holy Spirit talks to us, is that telepathy of you hear his voice. Well, the soul speaks too, and you will hear its voice, but most people have no clue about that, and then therefore ignore their soul. So when you're thinking you're bringing your soul before God, you're not really. Because most people don't even know what that is. And half the people don't even really understand spirit either. So spirit is your identity. You come. This spirit goes into the conception part and the body starts forming, but that spirit's there. The body keeps the score. Everything's recorded. Everything's recorded in the subconscious. You can access it, but you got to do your soul work to access it. And the body will let you know even what happened at conception. You just have to ask it, and it will tell you. But again, better to have a trusting relationship that your soul thinks that your spirit is leading. We want to be spirit-led and not soul-driven. But most of us are soul-driven. So identity is about staying true to the heaven culture that you are. You are a spirit being, and you do better when you stay true to that. But when you have these identity issues, you see you as ugly. Okay, you see you as not good looking. You see you as fat. You see you as not mattering. You see you as not loved. You see you as not understood. You see you as disconnected. You see you, you see you, you see you. Okay, and that's soul driven. Okay, so we need to understand heaven culture and stay heaven culture. That's one thing. Another thing is to honor parents. Now, sometimes parents are flawed and lack skills and don't do things heaven culture. But look at what I did with that. I veered off into, I'm right, they're wrong, they're the enemy. I made my parents out to be the enemy. That has not boded well in my life. Now, I may be right about the behavior that was misbehavior, but what good did that do me when, again, it put me in a place of not honoring my parents because it was like, I know better than you do. Okay, that's arrogant. All right, so we don't want to live life where we're dishonoring parents. We want to live life in the, what could I have done? So if I go back to my past and think, well, what could I have done? I could have been not viewing them as the enemy. And I could have been thinking, trying to understand what's propelling them to do what they do and figuring out ways to love them better. I was always figuring out ways to avoid them. Stay away from them. Again, they're the enemy. So I wasn't at home too much. I was running the streets. But that's not the answer. Again, the answer is to stay heaven culture. Now, as little kids, you're not really going to know that. I'm not holding myself culpable, but I am allowing my brain, my soul, to entertain, because you can add things. The soul is an eternal realm. Okay, it's not timed. It's an eternal realm, and so therefore you can add to it. And then when you add to it, it edits the program. So when I'm entertaining, well, I could have, done this and this and this in this situation, then you're mirroring heaven culture, and your subconscious can then start printing that new program out. Okay? And then you don't hold on to bitterness and grudges and things. You just don't live a soul life. You really can be aligned with spirit life. So that's kind of what I'm enjoying now. So we do need to be in a place where we're honoring parents, we're honoring spiritual leaders. That doesn't mean we're going to agree with them. And if you don't agree with them, okay, don't do as Deanna did, which is, well, I'm right and you're wrong. It's you discern what they know that's true and what's not true, but you still honor them as a leader. Spiritual leaders, now I don't know if all spiritual leaders have been called, but you'll know the ones that have been called to that office. And again, doesn't mean you're always going to agree. Unity isn't about agreeing 24/7. Unity is about, even if I don't agree with you, I'm still going to honor you that you are a leader. You have that testimony that they've been called. Okay? Now, you want to make sure you get those testimonies. Because again, we always have to be a part of congregation honoring leaders, and we have to be a part of a family that's honoring, grandparents, parents. We want to be honoring them. Okay? Now, my son's a doctor, so he's going to know a heck of a lot more about doctoring than I do, right? But he still honors me as his mother. We'll get more into protocol for what to do. But for now, we're going to go back to that notion of brain associations. Now, there's the things that I'm going to explore with someone that's struggling with same-gender attraction is I'm going to write down the word peers, and I'm going to have them put down all their thought life with regards to peers, because, and I'm going to talk about family dynamics again, but let's just talk about peers. Peers is a very important developmental stage for children, and I think especially boys, because they're determining their maleness from their interactions with peers. But their thought life will have started in childhood with the messages that they were sent, not particularly from the parents, but again, if say they got in trouble for something, their thought life could be, wow, mom's mean. I remember Garrett thinking if I got mad, it meant that I'm a monster. It's like his interpretations were very intense, even if that wasn't really the case, but to him it was. So it all depends on that child's perception. So if they start perceiving something about their maleness where maybe they don't feel as strong, they don't feel as assertive, they don't feel understood, it could leave them feeling, or they could even watch how someone interacts with the siblings. Say there's daughters, and like say you're a guy, and you see your mom interacting really favorably with the girls, just like my mom used to be really nice to the boys and just beat me. I was the only one that was ever beat. My brothers were never touched. And so I used to think, well, gee, it's far more better to be a boy than a girl. Okay, do you see the problems with thought life when you're a little kid? You're going to think, it's better to be a girl than a boy, or it's better to be a boy than a girl. See, there's where that gender stuff, that gender confusion gets in there. And I certainly had thought life like that when I was a kid. But a lot of times the boys can see, again, a good relationship between mom and daughters and think, wow, it's so much better to be a girl. Or, okay, so I'm just telling you, we always have to go find the thought life like that. But the peers are going to be sending you that message as well. Are they sending you the message that your femaleness is awesome and that your maleness is awesome? Or are you getting the message that you don't quite fit the mold? Because in your peer group, society's definition of male and female will be very prevalent. Okay, you've got to be this very beautiful, skinny, twiggy model, or you're not pretty. Or you've got to be that football player that's the buff athlete, or you're not quite male, and you've got to be very outspoken, or you're not quite male. The ones that are more soft, you know, you got a lot of soft guys out there. I've got one of my sons in particular is just a really, always just sweet, kind, no malice, soft spoken, but he was certainly bullied and told he was gay, but actually bullied. Okay, so a lot of my clients, in fact, I'd say every one of them, every one of my clients that have struggled with same-gender attraction will have been bullied by peers. Experiences with peers matters hugely in child development, okay, as far as their identity. So let's just kind of put that up there. So I've got on here, you know, not comfortable expressing myself. I am not received well. No one likes me. Peers are well liked, but I'm not. Peers are good looking, but I'm not. There's a lot of comparing, and it will leave them feeling very inadequate because they're comparing themselves to the top of the line. Now, let's go back to that dialectical thinking. Notice they're only seeing one side of the story. They're not looking at the group that are the less good looking or the less sports oriented. They're just looking at the top 10. Okay, and then they think that is the truth, when their brain didn't scan the whole audience. It just scanned, I'm not as good as this group, okay, is kind of what I see in their thinking. And in fact, these kids could be really good looking, but again, they're not as good looking as so-and-so, so therefore they're not as good looking. Okay, it could be even that bad, because most of my clients are good looking people. Okay, but again, they don't measure up to the best looking, so then they feel inadequate. So I'm telling you, see how crazy thought life can get? It can get really whacked out. And then the I'm weak. Again, if they're not the sports kind of guy. I am not male enough. I'm not female enough. Again, you start feeling very, very inadequate about your gender. I am weird. Why can't I fit in? There's a lot of why. And when the brain engages why, you're going to the logic area of the brain to explain something. These are emotional issues. So it is not a good idea to rely on logic to explain what is emotional. What is emotional comes from the limbic center of the brain, and that's why Jesus says you got to have somebody witnessing your pain. Meaning you really need somebody to help you process. Or you can, again, if you're using the logic to process what's emotional, it's going to get twisted, and that's what happens with same-gender attraction. All my clients, and we're talking a lot, that I have never known someone not to using their logic to answer these emotional issues, and the thought life can get very sideways. Okay, it's not going to be in alignment with truth. It's going to be very sideways. So then the brain is not going to be operating at an optimal level. And you will then start inflaming the brain, and brain chemistry goes down, and hormones get messed up. Everything's going to get out of whack because the thought life's out of whack. So, let's see, can't connect. Then people, especially with the boys, I know I think 3 of my boys, I had one son who's 6'2", okay, and he was always a bigger bone kid, and he was always taller than everybody else. He was always the bigger kid in his class, and he was athletic, and he's a good-looking boy. So do you know, nobody told him he was gay. But my 3 other kids, who aren't as tall, who aren't as, big-boned as him, they all got called gay. I'd say they all got bullied. Some of them really badly bullied. So, different experiences based upon your physique and your looks, and okay. And it leaves you feeling, inadequate. So I think if I look back now, I can tell, oh, that's why, so-and-so might have tried really super hard and wanted sports to be the end-all be-all, when he really wasn't that great. I mean, he was okay, but not, great. But how again, the mind could just get focused on, well, if I was good at baseball, then I could be an adequate male. Okay, I saw stuff like that. If I could win, then I would be, adequate. So you got to watch for those defense systems that come up, and they're trying to protect the psyche from emotional pain. But defense systems are really not. I don't believe that defense systems are a good idea. Now, I understand they save you as a child, but they harm you as an adult. And so I'm truly of the opinion that you're much better off without any defenses, and that if you just have thought life that is optimal for the brain, you don't have to have a defense. Because your thought life, if it's in alignment with what's optimal for the brain, and the Word of God is in absolute alignment with optimal brain functioning, you won't need defenses because God can be your shield and defense. And your brain operates the best that way. But defenses really harm the brain, okay? Because they are inauthentic. They're not authentic. And your soul knows it. Your soul knows that you're not really being authentic. You're not really being true to yourself. So I hear a lot of these particular clients say, well, I got to be true to myself. Okay, and you know what's really going on if I make them track their thought life? What's really going on is it's not about being true to a gay identity. It's about, no, you're not being true to you, because you stopped loving you way back when you were 5, 6, or 7, and you have been inauthentic, trying to get everybody to like you and find all these ways to feel good about yourself, and they were all fake. So that's what I have found with regards to the, I need to be true to myself. No, you haven't been true to your soul. Your soul is over here feeling these certain ways. You're not witnessing it. You're coming up with all these defense systems to not even deal with this. So see, they get deceived into thinking that no, I got same gender attraction is being true to me. No. Going and finding out why you had a lack of identity, how you got disconnected from your identity. Because when you were a baby, you were connected to your identity. When you were an infant, you were connected to your identity. And so now we have to find out, where did you stop knowing that you're this adorable, wonderful, fantastic spirit entity? Okay, and it happened somewhere, and we got to go find it. You didn't start out that way. Okay? So again, to be true to yourself is to do your soul work and go find out where you disconnected from you. When part of the soul disconnected from the soul that knows, it's in alignment with spirit. It's in alignment with I am adorable. It's in alignment with I am love. If parts of the soul start disconnecting from the spirit that you were born with, there's going to be problems. And again, that whole I got to be true to me. Okay, you aren't being true to you because you're not doing your soul work. So everybody needs to do their soul work, and that means you have to track associations, what you associate peers with. Now, usually, again, if I write this word down, everybody's going to put all this negative stuff about peers because their experiences with peers were very negative. Okay, and again, then thought life went veering off with regards to your identity. But I'm going to say that thought life was already veering off. By age 5, 6, 7, it was already veering off. Even before it got into school, it was already veering off. It was already feeling weird, like something's wrong with me. Why can't I please my parent? It's just all kinds of thought life like that. Especially really feeling different, feeling not normal. And a lot of times I think that's because their brain is processing information very differently. Again, I talked about the notion of concrete thinking, literal thinking, black and white. Even can be on the continuum of what I would call autism. I'm not saying, full-blown autistic, but just there's some characteristics of autistic ways of processing information that then are going to cause a lot of problems to the way you perceive things. The autonomic nervous system is definitely going to turn on a lot faster than say mine, unless you have PTSD. If you have post-traumatic stress disorder, your autonomic nervous system is going to turn on real quickly, just as easily as I heard that smack. Man, that just, it's like if you're a Vietnam vet and you hear a backfire, it was the same thing that happened to me. Well, when you've got a brain that's very sensitive to the autonomic nervous system turning on, and usually concrete thinkers, again, black, white, they see things pretty imminent danger very quickly. And so their brain is going to interpret imminent danger very quickly. Okay, especially if they're in trouble. It'll mean life or death to them. Okay, so as parents, we need to understand how each kid processes information. You can't just expect everybody to process information the same way, because they don't. And so you might have to be very sensitive with one child and become a very soft-spoken, very explain everything parent, especially, okay, honey, I see you're disappointed, and you want to make emotions a very safe thing for your children. You don't want to make it dangerous to cry, dangerous to be disappointed, dangerous to be angry. You don't want kids to interpret that it's dangerous to have emotion. They need to be able to be with parents that are going to be soft and patient with any emotion that they're having, and you teach them protocol for how to intervene with that emotion so that they can get restored back to their peace very quickly. But these particular clients of mine, they don't have protocol. Its emotions are all dangerous. They get overwhelmed very easily. That makes sense with regards to peers. Their relationship with peers didn't go well. Very disconnected, very didn't get to feel validated, approved of, accepted, had to come up with inauthentic ways to be connected, to be liked, and they are actually betraying themselves. So then they easily feel betrayed because they are actually betraying themselves. They are a false self. You know, they're defense systems, but they're false selves according to the soul, and the soul doesn't like it. So then the soul becomes very distant from the person. It becomes a soul war. This part of the soul starts being in charge, and this part of the soul just lays down and dies, dead men's bones. Okay, so we got dead men's bones, a percentage, and then the part that's becoming, no, I'm going to go down this, gender identity, the gay as identity. If I tell them, okay, what do you associate with gay? I will displease my parents. Now, they usually have a lot of positive associations. For instance, well, then I don't have to keep secrets. I notice that gay people relate to each other easily. They just seem very happy, very vibrant and exuberant and just happy, and they wear all kinds of, they can wear anything they want to wear. They can just be who they want to be. Is the thought life of somebody that is entertaining going down this road, okay? I will fit in. I will be understood. I will be loved. I will be okay. All my needs will be met. Now, keep in mind, this is just a percentage. It's not the whole of somebody. It's some part of the soul's concept of what will help to avoid pain. Okay, it's a defense system, but it's one of the soul's ideas that this is going to solve all the problems. This is going to fix our problems. Well, no, it's not going to fix your problem. It will not fix your identity. You will always be missing. You will always be betraying your own soul. You will always be not true to your own soul, the part of you that has a testimony that it's a spirit being. Okay, so, but they'll start entertaining this whole deception about, no, it looks like a really happy life. And again, I'll belong. Instead of belonging to the family, they're going to find this other family to belong to. So again, betraying your own family is not a way to heal identity. Again, and I'll talk more down the road about protocol that will get the family back into realignment, because God set us up in families, in tribes. And then again, that's how the anointings and the mantles and all that gets passed down. And you would be selling your birthright just like Esau sold his birthright. And you don't want to be doing that. You want to stay in alignment with God's design and his order. But when they think about gay as identity, it becomes an answer to all their problems about feeling different. And again, I think a lot of the feeling different was about that they processed information differently. And again, that soul that dissociated because it's experiencing pain over here by being different and not feeling connected to and not feeling loved and not feeling understood and just feeling so out of the norm, it's going to go find an answer to the problem. And the soul is not good at finding an answer to the problem. It's just not. Because you can see all the defenses. I've got a whole list of defenses. I think I've read them to you in a class long ago. That's a lot of ways that the soul is trying to figure out how to avoid pain and how to be happy. But they're not good ideas. And we have to look at what's going to bring the soul back into wholeness. That is to come back into wholeness with the fact that you're a spirit being. But that means that you're going to have to sit in the Garden of Gethsemane of whatever your soul has gone through. Okay, so you got to think in terms of what they associate gay with. And then, well, as far as male, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit before. Well, maybe I'll wait on that. You know what God wanted me to talk more about today was that when we're going to go into the associations with mom and dad, because we have to look at family dynamics. I'd venture the therapist that I have, I'm only going to speak to you about my experiences, but the other therapists that I have researched, the ones that are more in alignment with me, they will definitely report on family dynamics, having to look at that and look at what might not be meeting the needs of that particular special kid. The kid that, again, their brain structure is probably a bit different. And so I always look at those family dynamics, and the best way to do that is write the word mother on a piece of paper and write the word father on a piece of paper and see what associations I'm going to get. And then two, I'll want to do God as well. Okay, so let's put our God thing up here. We'll get to that in a bit. But I want to go over mom, and if I can find dad. I'll go look for dad. Now, keep in mind, this is something that I did not mention before, so I'm going to mention something new here. And the Holy Spirit reminded me of this. In every client that I have had that struggles with same-gender attraction, it won't be a mom thing or a dad thing. It will be both of them. Okay? So it's going to be, there's thought life about dad that isn't quite what we need it to be, and there's thought life about mom that's not what we need it to be. And when you put those two together, do you see our problem? Because now they don't have someone to safely attach to. Okay? So I have never seen a client where there weren't issues on both sides, the mom side and the dad side. So, and when I ask them, well, what do you think about marriage? It'll be, ugh, yuck. And they'll base their experiences with marriage on what they saw in the marriage of their parents. Okay? And now, I have lots of clients that they didn't necessarily say. I had I'm thinking of some clients that had a porn addiction, and they had that same thought life about marriage. And so they would be the clients that were 50 years old and never been married. So you have to ask them, okay, what do you associate with marriage? It'll be, dad was this really nice guy and mom was a nag. So then do you see how they have a thought life that mom's a nag, dad's a nice guy. So they're attached to dad, but they don't want to attach to marriage or think ill of women. Okay? Now, they're not going to go down the same gender attraction road, do you see? Because they like dad. They think dad's a really male guy. Let's just start out with the mom thing. I have scenarios where mom was real passive and dad was physically abusive. Okay, and say it was a woman, and so the mom is not protective of the kids because she lives in total fear of the dad beating, and he could be an alcoholic or into drugs or something like that. So do you see how it's not an emotionally safe environment there? And so if you're the girl, you're thinking, okay, females are weak, And then men are really dangerous. So do you see how I'm going to stay away from men because they're physically abusive and they sexually abuse. I see a lot of physical and sexual abuse. And then I don't want to be near feminine either because, man, they just get beat. So do you see how then you might start thinking it's better to be male, but I don't kind of want to be, the abuse. Do you see all the thought life you can start entertaining? So I've had females that are very kind of manly, because it's better to be male, and it's weak to be female, but they have issues with male too, though. So do you see then they're kind of in between. They don't even know what they are. They don't know what gender really they are. So they don't go towards feminine and they don't go towards masculine. They're just kind of like in the middle, okay, where they look plain and maybe don't even stick out at all. But they're not, but there's a little maleness to it, but a little feminist. I mean, do you see what I mean? So I've had some female clients like that where you didn't know what they were, okay, because their identity was confused as to who do I attach to. They weren't safe to attach to any, not mom or dad. So see our problem? So when I've got different scenarios, and it could be that mom was, maybe mom was a bit autistic herself and you couldn't get emotionally attuned to her because she was just very facts ma'am. Or I've had moms that were just very detailed, and there's nothing emotional in there. There's nothing about, oh honey, I see that you're sad, and oh honey, I see that. The mom is not even attuned to anything the kid is feeling. It's always about details. I call it the newspaper defense, where you just walk like you're a walking newspaper, and you're just talking about facts, and you just don't even notice what's going on in the room as far as emotions. So if you got a mom who's really disconnected like that, or a very depressed mom, do you see how then you're not going to feel safe to attach that way? But again, if say you've got that kind of mom who's just very kind of left brain, concrete, logic thinker herself, not attuned to emotion, she could be a really nice person, but just not attuned. Or she could be a really depressed in bed, all different kinds of scenarios. But then put together what's going on with dad. Now, I'm thinking about a client where, again, mom was just really hard to connect to. She's just too logical. And dad liked sports. So then this female thought, okay, I'll try to attach to dad. So she started becoming more male. Okay, because dad, her thought is dad liked males better. Dad's always out coaching baseball and soccer. So she figured, okay, if I become sports, then dad will love me. Okay, and then of course she tried that for a long time, and yeah, dad really liked that she was into sports and stuff, but it didn't quite meet the need. Like, I kind of like dad and all, but I still would really like a female to dote on me and love me. And so then, do you see, then boom, it was, no, I'm going to go towards this. Again, dad was nice and all, but not totally safe to attach to. I mean, there was still something missing. So then it's like, okay, well then I'm going to go try for a surrogate mom. So then boom, I'm going to go get another woman to meet my needs. And I certainly had that thought life. I'm going to go get another woman to meet my needs. Okay? So I've had clients that then went in that same gender attraction that were female clients because they thought it was going to meet their needs to go find a woman. Weren't trying, they tried with the dad thing, didn't quite make it. And so then, do you see how if you can't make it with mom or dad, as far as safe attachment, you got to go to somebody else. I mean, I couldn't attach to mom or dad, so I went to go look for another man because as far as my association with women, they beat you. Now, granted, I had men that molested, but it wasn't my dad. And so I thought, well, maybe there's a knight in shining armor, because I was at the era of Walt Disney, where all those cartoons came out during my young life there. And so I took into Prince Charming can save me. because I didn't have Jesus. So I thought, yes, thank you, Walt Disney. Prince Charming can save my life. Woohoo! So I went down that road, and I turned into that Samaritan woman that had all these men and just sucked at it. You know? So now Jesus is my first love, and that just bodes very well. And then Bob's right next to that. Okay, so let's see, what are some other scenarios? Sometimes we have really caring moms, but they overdo it. You could be over loving. You could try to rescue your kids from all their emotions. Oh no, okay honey, I'll make that okay. And the mom goes around making everything okay. You know, I'll go fight your battles. Now, I've fought a few battles for my kids. But a lot of times I would say, okay, you go take care of that, son. And if you have to hit that kid, hit the kid. But make sure he hit you first. I mean, you know, I didn't go fight all their battles. There's a couple I did go in and fight. But they're boys, so, you know, boys just have to punch somebody sometimes when a bully's being bullied. When you're being bullied, punch the bully. That's my philosophy. You know, and now, make sure you're a kid, though, so that, because if you're an adult, you're going to get arrested, okay? The legal system is usually really good on kids that are trying to defend themselves. Especially if you're little, you know, you're not going to get in trouble that way. Maybe school, but I'd be very happy to go to the principal and say, excuse me, that kid was bullying my kid, and I'm going to tell my kid to beat him up because he's not going to feel male if he doesn't. And I'd rather my kid get suspended for a couple days than to go around feeling not male, because he's being told, don't defend yourself when somebody's being very abusive and bullying. That's when, I didn't mean to go down that rabbit hole, but we're going to go down that bunny trail. I am so not in favor. If somebody, to me there needs to be a school rule that says if somebody bullied you and they literally did hit you, that you need to be able to defend yourself, because again, it leaves you feeling very inadequate about your maleness. And then it's going to harm girls too, you know, when you can't defend yourself, but especially for the boys. So that old school of go hit the bully when he bullies you, hit him, go down dying. I mean, fight till the death, but fight. Because if you don't, you're going to feel inadequate about your maleness. And I think we have too much of that going on in society, where the bullies get to continue to bully and they get colluded with, but the person that got bullied is the one who gets punished. They should not get punished for being bullied. And again, we're raising a very wimpy society because boys can't be boys. They can't be male when it comes to this whole issue of bullying. Okay, now, again, that's Deanna's philosophy. It's okay if nobody else agrees with me. But I think that worked really well for me to say, son, if that guy hits you again, punch him out to the death, man. And he did. I had a son who did hit the kid back, and that kid never bothered him again. Now, he was 7. I mean, you know, they were young. But the kid never bothered him again because my son stood up for himself and said, dude, you want to mess with me? Go for it. You know. And the kid never messed with him again. And that's how it usually works with bullies. Does that make sense? Again, I'm not promoting violence by any means, but I'm saying there is a phenomenon where when you're being bullied, okay, the rules change. The rules need to change. Again, because it impacts your sense of identity. You're going to then walk around weak, powerless. That's not good. So, okay, we might have a whole debate on that one, all right? So again, sometimes moms overdo it. You overdo rescuing your kids from emotion. No, teach them protocol for what to do with the emotion. Sometimes you rescue them too much at school and go fight their battles. No, we have to teach children how to fight their battles, okay? And if you know, I went against the school rules, but, you know, that's me. That's that Scottish rebel in me. Let's see. Another one is if the parent's too authoritarian parenting style. It's too militant. It's too do this. It's very directing. Direct. Okay, kids can't develop, can't mature, can't walk into their adulthood when they've been used to being told what to do. You have to come in their teenagehood where you're able to go, well, what do you think, honey? And you get them to maneuver the journey so that they're prepared to go to college. Okay, because by the time they leave home, you need them being able to walk their journey without a bunch of direction from you. Okay, so parents really fail at that a lot, where they don't shift from direction to then, well, what do you think, honey? Well, did you try, what's your plan of action? And, well, what do you want to do about that grade? You're just asking what the kid's going to do. Instead of telling the kid what to do, you're going to ask the kid what their plan of action is. But you're certainly going to go, wow, I see that was a bummer. You certainly reflect those emotions that, whoa, you seem really disappointed about that grade. Or you seem very scared of this bully. Or you seem very hurt by the girl who broke up with you. Because we also want to know, again, what's with boys. I've raised 4 of them, so they were exceptionally sensitive. It would be, the girl broke up with me, Mom. I'm never dating again. And I'm like, how am I going to get grandchildren that way? So I'm like, I got to do something here. So it'd be, what makes you, so what's your thought life, son? So she broke up with you. What does that mean to you? It means I'm a failure. I'm a reject. Nobody's going to like me. I'm not good looking. I'm not good. It's like, so it'd be, son, okay, so it wasn't a match. So it doesn't mean you're a reject. It doesn't mean that son, it's going to hurt for a couple weeks. You're going to hurt for a couple weeks. See how you're teaching? It's going to hurt. Thank God you don't have to pay taxes yet. But then if we change our thought life, taxes can be like a joyful experience because you're making all these contributions to the government. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so do you see you're helping them first by, I see you're hurt, and baby, it's going to hurt for a while. And I so get that. You're just going to reflect that. And that, okay. But as far as this thought life you're thinking, that thought life is not in alignment with optimal brain activity. Not in alignment with your identity of who you are. You're actually abusing your soul. So you want to teach your kids young. Well, honey, that thought is abusing your soul. Because there's Lamentations chapter 3 verse 51 that says, my eye affecteth my soul. And the word affecteth really means abuse. So my eye is perception. So it means my perception is abusing. And it says, I think, heart, but in the Hebrew, it's actually the word soul. Okay, so that's Lamentations chapter 3 verse 51. My eye affecteth my heart, but it's really my perceptions abuse my soul. So we have to teach kids, okay, that thought life right there is going to be abusive to the soul. If you're thinking you're a reject, if you're thinking you're not good looking enough, if you think all that, no, you're abusing your soul and you want to stop that. But as far as the feeling that you're feeling, that's a normal feeling to feel. You're going to feel it for a while. It's sad. It's very sad that she broke up with you. Okay, but honey, it's not imminent danger to life. You are going to make it. No, Mom, I'm not going to make it. Yes, I understand that you don't think you're going to make it. You think you're going to die. Okay, because you can't live without her. He's 16. Okay? But honey, again, 2 weeks of hurting, and then you will start moving on. It was just, you guys weren't a match. There's a perfect match out there for you. You got to have hope about a perfect match out there for you, honey. And so you just work with them on their thought life. Does that make sense? Because you want to catch them when they're abusing their soul, when they're abusing their identity. Because then things are going to go sideways. They're going to be an addict of one kind or another because that distress is going to get into the subconscious and get repeated. Okay? Just real quickly, let me go into that dad part, which is, okay, I gave scenarios on the mom part, but remember, we are always gluing that together with the perception of what the dad is too, because in my clients that have same gender attraction, it was not being able to attach to either. Okay, and it doesn't mean that a parent was mean or not a good parent. Again, this isn't about blaming parents. This is about the perception of the kid. And again, if they have that artistic brain, if they have that computer brain, they're going to have misperceptions. But to them, it's not a misperception. To them, it's truth. Okay, so do you see, as a parent, we always want to be catching the thought life, catching the emotions, being a very safe, emotional witness for your kids. Okay, honey, I'm witnessing that you're feeling this way right now. Let's talk it through to find the thought life. See whatever thought life is abusing the soul or not. Okay, do you see what your job is? Witness what your kids are going through. And talk them, but don't direct and tell, but you're talking with them through that, okay? Now, some of just those man versions, I explained, one is abusive male. Another that I see a lot with my male clients, I see a lot of passive dad. A lot, like most. Most of it was mom was the dominant one. And again, she could have been very friendly. She could have been rescuing. She could have been oh, honey, you're so fantastic. It could have been overdone. Or it could have been underdone. It's hard to know. Again, we're not here to blame parents. We're just here to improve so that they can stop abusing their souls. But dads were usually classified as very passive, quiet, don't talk much. Mom's the one that wears the pants in the family, not dad. And so then the boys are going to start thinking, oh, gee, dad doesn't look so male. Because, again, society's telling them that males are very strong, Superman. And then they don't see dad being the Superman. They see mom being the Superman. And so do you see how it makes them feel like, maybe dad's not so male. And then that means I'm not so male because I'm male. And do you see? Thought life can just start getting really messed up. And then, they'll feel not assertive because they're not really seeing dad be assertive, so then they don't feel assertive because they don't see it role modeled, so then men aren't supposed to be assertive, but then they go to school and see that men are assertive, and do you see how then they're going to feel inadequate? Okay, so if dad's letting mom wear the pants and dad's just quiet and dad, a lot of passive dad, then again, they'll feel inadequate about their maleness, and they won't know how to stand up for themselves because they're not seeing a role model. And they then don't, even though dad's this sweet, kind person, and they love their dad, but in the back of their mind, it's, well, but dad didn't protect me when mom was, telling me to do this and this and this and this. And they just didn't feel protected somehow, some way. So then part of them starts veering away from the connection, even though they have a good opinion of dad's a nice guy, but it will still be, but he's not strong enough to defend me when he needs to defend me in front of my mom. So do you see how then they're going to veer towards, I want to find a man who is going to be confident and assertive and take charge, and they will become the submissive one. Because they're then going to attract what they saw in that relationship. They're going to attract that dad was submissive and mom was, again, it's perception of the kid. It doesn't mean that it was reality, but we have to go by what the perceptions of the kid was. And if that's what he sees, then he's going to go into finding a very confident, domineering person and be the submissive one. Or sometimes it can be vice versa. Depends on what they're identifying with. Sometimes, as a defense system, you identify with the abuser and become an abuser. Because you figure it's much stronger, the abuser male, say some fathers were abusive, physically abusive, and the kid is going to think, well, that's much better to be that strong male than to be the wimpy female. So he's not going to attach to the girls per se, other than to then domineer over a woman, but it looks better to have been strong, and you're going to identify with the man that was disrespectful to women. Okay, so some do identify with the abuser, but again, it's a defense system of, well, then that way I won't ever get hurt because I'm going to be the one doing the hurting. All right, so there are all kinds of scenarios. But when you glue those two together, associations of mom versus associations with dad, there will be a lack of really attaching emotionally, even though you think they're nice people and all, but that doesn't mean they're safe to emotionally attach to, because there's things going on where they did not have the skills, to do that emotional attunement and then to teach you how to evolve into a full-blown adult, because they didn't know how to shift from directive parenting to helping children to fly the nest. So does that make sense? It'll be both. So it's not just a one thing or no, it's both. And again, thought life can start veering off in all different directions as a way to fix the emotional pain so that you don't ever feel the emotional pain again. But again, that's all a delusion. You're going to hurt. Okay? And so again, it's the brain's way, the soul's way, the psyche's way, again, the split off dissociated parts way, so it's just a percentage of trying to fix the problem, but it's going to make a bigger problem. Because we got to veer back to what's your identity? Your identity is you're valuable. Your identity is you're perfect as you are. You are a masterpiece of God, no matter what your height, no matter what your weight, no matter, you are a masterpiece of God, and you have to be valuing you just as you are, and figure out what your calling is. What's your assignment from your Father in heaven? Stay very connected to spirit realm.
Full, but I'm not satisfied.